Welcome back to the Pitch Pod, everyone. I'm Jeff Stebbins. Joined with me this evening is the co-host, Joe Janner. Joe, how you doing this evening?
Jeff, I'm doing fine. I'm excited to be back talking about English Premier League, looking at a marquee matchup, Newcastle versus Manchester United. So happy to be here. Interested to see how this conversation goes.
Yeah, it's been a while. We haven't done a podcast for quite a while. So if we're a little bit rusty, hopefully they forgive us out there. And Joe, are you battling something? Are you fighting through illness? What's going on over there?
Jeff, it's a little congestion. It's a little bit maybe me not being 100%, but as you said it, just battling through, just trying to push through. I mean, 'tis the season, and we're doing our best, just like everybody else, to make the most of our health and get through. So I'm okay though. I'll be all right. Thanks for asking.
A great athlete persevering, right? That's same thing.
You got it.
The show must.
You got it. The show must go on.
As you said, we have quite a matchup. Joe, both of these teams coming off the Champions League play and some interesting results from that. So do you mind kind of reviewing that? And I believe there's a controversial call in the Newcastle game. Do you mind kind of taking our viewers through that briefly?
Well, right. I know in the aftermath, there was a lot discussed about the call, the handball late into extra time. Mbappe ends up converting penalty to draw level. And I think a lot of people that were looking at going, how, why? And in these type of games, when this happens, it does lend itself to a lot of question marks about not only the process, but why it gets to that point where the VAR has so much influence on a match. I mean, it's supposed to be, in some sense, supposed to be the opposite, right? I thought that was really, in some sense, in there. The VAR is put in place to help to keep these type of controversial situations from occurring. And now it looks like 9 out of 10 times it's the reverse. So again, without getting too far, getting too critical into it, I think it's worth mentioning the fact, though, that is probably going to play some sort of role in how Newcastle then prepares himself now for league play. I mean, you come off the game like that where I don't know if anybody's quoted, or I don't know if I necessarily would like to be quoted myself as saying they were robbed in that of the full 3 points, but maybe they come out, play with a little chip on their shoulder, and that will influence how this next upcoming match goes. So I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they still had a draw against a team the caliber of PSG, that kind of shows you what they're capable of. And so, yeah, if luck went their way, maybe there's a different outcome there. And then Manchester United, can you briefly tell us about their Champions League match they just got done with recently?
Well, that was probably way more difficult, especially for supporters of Manchester United to deal with, in the fact that they were up 2-0 to end up, and then I think at one point up 3-2 to end 3-3, bottom of their group. Now, statistically, probability-wise, and it'd be interesting to see if anybody out there has put the numbers together. Technically, they're still not out of it. It would require them, one, beating Bayern, and the other two teams drawing. So it'd be interesting to see if anybody's put those numbers together. Love to hear if any of our listeners, anybody's gotten that far into the probability of Manchester United to be able to get through. It's got to be slim to none. I don't know how well that translates into German. I'm sure that would be an interesting aspect to hear as well. So that's a big part of the game. Going into this game, how are they going to respond? After, again, I think most of the critics, most of the people that were, especially their supporters, saying, how do you not win that game? So I think that, again, that's why these competitions are exciting, because it's not just the one league. You have all these other competitions involved, and it does have their influence over the next matches, players, sides, management decisions, selections, all that.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's kind of interesting. There's still a lot of season left, obviously, and there's plenty of time, but I'm kind of surprised that both Newcastle and Man U are so down on the leaderboard right now. I think they're 6th and 7th respectively, and it's not bad. And as I said, there's plenty of time for them to climb back up by the end of the season. But does that surprise you that those two teams are that low on the leaderboard, Joe?
It's relative in a sense. I mean, we're talking about the English Premier League. You're talking about a lot of clubs and a lot of sides. I mean, maybe we just need to look at the points. If you're talking about Manchester United with 24 points, they're only 6 points below the top. I mean, it's heavily speaking of congestion, Jeff, you could have mentioned it when I talked about my own congestion. Talk about a congested table. I mean, you really are talking about 6, 7, 8 teams that are within 8 points of the top there. Manchester United with 24, Newcastle right there with 23. So I think results wise, maybe there's been a couple surprises, but as far as where they're at there, I think it's fair. I mean, maybe we're not talking about Aston Villa, but the fact that they're sitting in fourth with 28 maybe a bigger surprise than anything. And so, I mean, that's a spot that maybe should have been Manchester United, Newcastle to take. But again, really, I think that's what's exciting. That's why we love the English Premier League, because of the quality of sides and the number of potential, and still here we are, match day 14. I don't think anybody's claiming that anybody's going to win this 100%.
No. And it's interesting, Arsenal and Manchester City, right, where they were last season, 1 and 2. So it's interesting, but you're right. Plenty of time left, plenty of games to be played. But yeah, it's interesting. If you look at the results, both Newcastle and Man U, they're both talented teams, but it seems like there's just not a lot of consistency there, Joe. And one week they look great, like they should, and then the next week they lose to a team that they shouldn't. And it's just up and down for both of these squads all season. So really, I don't know how to make a prediction on this one. It just kind of depends who shows up, because I think they're both really quality teams. It's just the consistency is what concerns me going into this.
I would agree. I think that you said it in the sense that it's not really certain. They haven't really. I mean, you could say within league play, Manchester United having won 3 in a row in the league, maybe that's a little bit more consistent. Could they end up winning this one, getting 4 in a row? Be interesting to go back and look and see the last time that they were able to get 4 in a row in the league. For me, what I'm looking at as I look at the table, look at the numbers, I'm looking at something that's kind of glaring. I think that it's almost revealing the possible and potentially where I'm going in terms of my prediction. I'm looking at the 0 draws that Manchester United have had in this. I mean, it's all big, almost all for nothing. I'm looking at the 16 goals for versus the 16 goals against for a 0 goal differential. Sometimes that's a little bit of a consistency itself. It's either it is or isn't, right? Off or on, the binary, in the sense that this could really go either way. And then you look at Newcastle side, right there below them. I have to think that this is probably one, numbers wise, statistics wise, looking at the numbers, it just screams out draw to me.
Okay, and what was the actual draw that you're predicting?
I'm gonna say both these teams are capable of scoring. I'm gonna go 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. That's fair. Yeah. Again, for me, some things that I'm going to factor into this are where's the game being played? It's at Newcastle, right? Which team's hot right now? I'm thinking of Ten Hag. I'm thinking of him as a manager. Thinking of some players that stand out to me that could be impact players for both sides. I'm thinking of Gordon on one end. On the other end, I'm thinking Rashford, as well as some others that stick out as potential threats. And this one's a tough one. I think it makes sense that they're so close on the leaderboard, because this is a tough one. I think your 2-2 draw is a fair prediction. I'm going to count on Newcastle showing up, being that it's a home match, being that they came off of a decent performance against PSG in the Champions League. I'm just, they have a little momentum going here, a little opportunity. And if they do show up, I think they can compete with pretty much any team in the league. So I'm going to go with them showing up for this one, because it is a big game. And I have them winning this one 2-1, with Gordon getting on the board for at least one of those goals.
Okay. I can see that again. You go there at Manchester United, you talk about showing up. Maybe be able to see how they go about this, how they handle preparation and what they've been talking about and what they've been looking at in training and how they will approach this one. I don't, again, we always get kind of shy away from talking about must-win matches, but definitely got to be a good performance. Definitely, I think the expectations definitely has to be a solid performance in this one. I mean, both sides in some, to some extent, but I think the pressure's on Ten Hag, Manchester United, and like I said, like we alluded to at the beginning of the show. I mean, to go up and be up 2-0, to drop those points in the Champions League, and everybody's looking and going, "Why? Really? Is this really happening again?" Just adds a whole other element to this. But
it does. Well, I'll tell you one thing. We'll definitely be tuning in to watch this game, and it should be a fun one. Should be a competitive one. So, looking forward to it. And till next time, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what we bring you here at the Pitch Pod, please do us a favor, hit that like and that subscribe. Don't forget, we're available on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. Thank you, everyone, and keep pitching out there.
In a game, the round ball, round posts, anything can happen.